Can you envision a world 5 years from now where Facebook of today, where anybody can join and anybody can talk to anybody, is going to go away?
It's possible. You think of MySpace back 10 years ago, biggest platform, until Facebook came over and blew them out of the water.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Marketing on Tap. My name is Sam Fiorella. This is my mate, Danny Brown. Today, Danny, want to talk about Facebook. They have been much maligned in the media lately. They got lawsuits happening all over the place, inquiries happening all over the place. And I think that's led to a pretty stunning about face this week from Mark Zuckerberg, who put out this manifesto that lays out the future of the company, or at least what the direction that he wants the company to go at. And he's suggesting in this that they're going to be moving towards a encrypted one-to-one messaging platform,
right?
Which everybody is reading as they're getting rid of the newsfeed, which is, this is pretty shocking stuff here, because their entire business is that newsfeed and advertising through that newsfeed and collecting data about us through that newsfeed. If they start moving into a one-to-one communication platform, that's going to turn our industry, at least on the social media side, on its ear, let alone their industry.
Right.
So I want to explore that a little bit today and see, where is this going? Might they actually do this? Are they being pressured into it? And what does that mean for marketing? And maybe just us as human beings, as general society, what's this going to do?
Okay.
So that's what we're talking about today. Stay tuned. I think it's going to be a really fascinating conversation. But as always,
we have some beer, which is nice. This is like a new one. I don't think we've had a Wellington.
I don't believe we have, no.
But I can't see why all these can, so who knows? We may have.
We can't see much of anything at this point.
But anywho, this is Wellington Special Pale Ale, or SPA to everybody that drinks it. And it's a roasted malt with subtle apricot aromas. So it doesn't smell too hoppy. I think Robert might like it. It also has like malt-forward beer. It's got biscuit and caramel flavors up front. It's pretty low ABV, 4.5%, so sessionable, and IBU 22. So really, this should be a really easy drinking beer. But we shall soon find out. Robert's back on Robert Cam this week.
Yeah, so that's why, by the way, for those of you who have been following along, you notice we've had Anna for the last little while visiting us, because Anna likes a real beer. And so Robert is here today, so we've got a lighter beer. Although this might be a little... Actually, you're okay with a red beer, right?
You smell the caramel, definitely. Caramel and malt.
Let's take a look. Cheers, guys. I'll have the Robert Cam going. Hold on, Rob.
Yeah, it's approved.
Yeah.
Robert approved. First week back, and it's Robert approved.
Yeah, I like that. All right, cool.
All right, well, good job, Wellington. And they're up in... Where are Wellington, anyway? They're Guelph, Ontario. Yeah, I can never remember. Guelph, Ontario.
Well, this is your old hunting ground, isn't it? Didn't you go to university out there? Waterloo. All right, close enough. Okay, so let's get back to this. Zuckerberg presented a completely entirely new philosophy on where Facebook is going based on what it has been doing since its inception. So basically, for the last 15 years, Facebook has been talking about a world that's more open, more connected, where people can gather in these public squares, I guess was the analogy that was always used. And now this change that he's, trying to inspire within his organization is now being called living room conversations, as opposed to public square conversations, because they're going to be more closed group, encrypted. So we kind of saw where this was coming, because he already announced that they were going to be combining a few of their platforms.
Core platforms, yeah.
So Snapchat and Messenger and Instagram messaging were all going to basically become one platform, one application. The cynic in me says that isn't because he saw something that would make this a better platform by amalgamating it. There's been so much talk about antitrust in the United States that they're talking about breaking up the company. So in my mind, he's doing this because he wants to make it one application that can't be broken up. right? So that he can, gain control of that and not have to sell off parts of his business and, and basically maintain competition for himself. But on the other side, there's been a lot of backlash. Let's talk about the backlash that's happened against his company. Why is Facebook under so much fire right now by government bodies around the world?
Well, you just need to look at the tragedy in New Zealand, the massacre at the Muslim church, Muslim mosque, sorry.
Yeah.
And that was live streamed on Facebook for at least, was it 17 minutes, something like that, before it got taken down.
I don't think they've actually gotten all of them down yet.
No, they've already said they've stopped the upload of about 1.2 million versions of it so far. But it's hard for them to keep up, to that scale.
That's nuts.
But that's one of the problems, is the fact that it has been used, so much for stuff like that, and for spreading radicalism and etc. They've also got the privacy issues, and kids getting bullied. Suicides happening because of bullying via private messaging, images getting shared, stuff like that. And it's not just Facebook, but Twitter, the major platforms have all been criticised, but Facebook, because it's the biggest, for not taking enough action to stem this.
Yeah. Well, and there's also the issue that Facebook is now, there's potentially going to be either fines or a lawsuit about or at least an inquiry into the use of their data sharing practices.
Yeah, with the Cambridge Analytica thing.
Cambridge Analytica and stuff. And now I know the government of France is going after them for something about their revenue and their taxes. And now in the United States, there's this whole antitrust thing that we were just talking about. So clearly there's a lot of pressure. Oh, then let's not even forget what's the pressure he came under when it came to not clamping down on the Russians who were using the platform to spread whatever message they wanted to spread to sway the U.S. Elections. And not just in the U.S. Apparently, this is something that's been happening all around the world through Facebook as well as other platforms. So there's obviously the business and the political pressure on Facebook right now. He's not been seen as an effective leader.
Right.
He's coming out with these epic long blog posts right now trying to explain away everything. And that doesn't seem to be helping his public image. But then there's also the news that's coming out recently about the effects. We talked about this the other day on one of these episodes, and that was the effect on our mental health, that, what's happening in terms of the negativity, the AI that they're building is basically keeping us more and more addicted.
Right.
But then they're not doing enough on the other side. I don't know. One of the things we talked about is how responsible should we as marketers or should social media companies be to the negative mental health that they're creating out there by gamifying us to be more addicted to this. I've been reading over the last couple of days while this story's been blowing up that some people are actually giving him credit. They're saying that he's grown a conscience.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's, just like, Gates did, and he's made his millions. He can't make any more money. So let me start giving my money away, while he's still making.
He also became a father. That does change.
Yeah, that's true. And he became a father. So maybe let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And, is some of the kudos he's getting, how much of this might be because, hey, I realize my role or my company's role in all of the crap that's happening out there to people's mental health as well as to, our society as a whole. And there is no future for these open public square social media anymore. It has to be private to protect people. Do you think there's any of that in it?
There may be. It's interesting. Obviously, their chief product officer, Chris Cox, he's left the company and he's saying it's based around the new pivot that Facebook is taking in the new direction. Now, there's he says, she says about that, and obviously each publication's got a different take on why Chris Cox left. But if your chief product officer is leaving because of a pivot, does that mean that he sees something that obviously we don't, and the direction it's taken isn't, an altruistic one? It's even more data driven.
Yeah. See, this is why. Well, I don't know. Maybe I would argue the other point though, Danny, because if their chief product officer left and he hasn't said anything about why he left, but he's one of the most popular executives in that company. He's been around for over 10 years. He's been basically heading this newsfeed development to great effect.
Yeah.
They're making all kinds of money off of it and collecting crazy amounts of data. if he's leaving because of a change in direction of how the news feed is going to be less public, more private, to me, that means that he's departing his vision, his original vision, what he was building is no longer what he wants. So I'm thinking that maybe there is some altruism on Zuckerberg's part, or at a minimum, he's reacting to the negative publicity.
Right,
So if it's not because I want to do something that's good for society, he might think, you know what, we as a company cannot sustain
all the negativity.
all this negativity because it's only going to get worse. He's seeing the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And maybe unlike, the product, Coxley, the product manager, maybe this guy maybe he's the smartest of all of them over there. You'd have to, just based on what he's built, you have to give him that credit.
Oh, yeah.
He's smarter than anybody else. And he realizes, you know what? If we have another 2-3 years of this, we're never going to be able to rebound from it.
Right.
Our name is going to be mud. Competitors, upstarts are going to come up. They're going to be the ones offering these encrypted, smaller dark social. Mm-hmm. Another episode we did a couple of weeks back on how dark social is growing. And I know you and I speak a lot more on dark social than we do publicly on all of the various groups that we're in for, football and others. Maybe he's seeing that and that's going to be the way to go. To me, that makes sense. But that is really the crux of this. Is it possible that these open forums are going to go away? Can you envision a world 5 years from now where Facebook of today, where anybody can join and anybody can talk to anybody, is going to go away?
It's possible. You think of MySpace back 10 years ago, biggest platform, until Facebook came over and blew them out of the water. But MySpace, huge, got bought for $530 million by Rupert Murdoch, I think.
Yeah.
And then they sold it for $35 million 6-7 years later.
Didn't Justin Timberlake buy it or something?
I think so. And now it's like, and now they've lost all the recordings went up. So there is, Google Plus. That was the big hope of Google. And you've got a huge company like Google putting all its money behind it to create another social platform. Couldn't go up against Facebook. So Facebook's got a monopoly, but nothing lasts forever, really. So it could go. And I mean, like you say, Zuckerberg's got the data.
Talk to the people at BlackBerry about that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
The biggest smartphone company in the world, one quarter and basically dead the next quarter.
Yeah, and that's it. So it shows you, especially in the tech space, things happen that fast. And like you say, Zuckerberg's got all the data. And there was, I think it was maybe on a Verge publication or something that they'd mentioned that he's saying that Instagram as it is and the Facebook newsfeed as it is may only have another couple of years.
Yeah.
It's already peaking with usage and interaction, etc., and monetization options. So maybe it will. And then,
well, again, he's got the data. Take a look at the number of millennials and the new Gen Z, the Gen Z,
Genials, not genitals. Totally different subjects.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that. That just made me realize that Shaqiri, Liverpool player, didn't play for the Swiss team. Did you hear why?
No.
Because the Swiss soccer team reported that he's got engorged pelvic area, and as a result, he can't play.
Oh, okay.
That's an excuse. That you just made me think of that when you started talking about genitals.
Anyway, back to Zook.
Anyway, but we're not here to talk about football, proper football, soccer. We are here to talk about Zuckerberg. So you know what? When you take a look at this next generation, I digress. This next generation is definitely more and more going off of platforms like Facebook and moving more into the Snapchats of the world.
Yeah.
For that reason, short-term content that gets deleted for a variety of reasons. So it could very well be, as you said, that he's got the data. He's seeing the writing on the wall. If it wasn't the drop in usage of this next generation who are looking for something different, it's the political pressure and the business pressure and all the lawsuits and everything else. Maybe these two things combined. So let's talk about what that will do. Let's assume that his vision is actually going to happen. And there's lots of speculation that this is just him ranting right now because of all the pressure. It's never going to happen. Because he actually did say when a journalist, I think it was in Wired magazine, asked him, how are you going to monetize this?
Right.
If you're getting rid of your news feed, how are you going to monetize the platform? And his reaction was, we first build it, then we figure out how to monetize it, which is frankly how he built Facebook in the first place. Yeah. He built it first, then monetized it.
Well, you look at Messenger now, you get ads in Messenger. Right. So
so it's not, well, funny enough, I was talking to my trainer. I was just having this conversation with a client today. Just to show you how scary technology is, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat for a moment. I was talking to my trainer about these supplements I'm supposed to be taking.
Right.
ADP supplements, T alpha, they're called ADP T alpha. So I'm supposed to be taking these. I didn't do a search because I bought them right there at the club. So I didn't have to go look at pricing or where it's available. He and I were talking about it. My phone was in my pocket,
Right.
in my shorts. We had just finished a workout. And throughout the workout, I was talking to him about these supplements. I went down, I bought them at the store. When I got, and I put it on my account. So I didn't even use a Visa or anything like that because we know that they grab data from Visa, what you're buying. So I didn't even use my Visa. I put it on my account at the club. The next day, I started having all these T alpha ADP supplements popping up in my screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not quite sure how important this
Encrypted stuff is.
Well, no, not the encrypted. How important the news feed is going to be for Zuckerberg and Facebook and all the others to actually sell us ads.
Yeah.
We don't need to be clearly in these public forums.
Yeah.
Again, tinfoil hat on. My phone was damn well listening to me. I can guarantee you that it was listening to what I was saying, because there's no way out of the blue that all of a sudden I'm going to be getting served up ads for something that I was talking about the day before and never searched and never put on a card. So clearly they can do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said he's going to try and find a way to monetize it. What's going to be the impact of that though on us on businesses? I know one of the criticisms of the Facebook by news media is that they love Facebook because they want to advertise through Facebook.
Yeah.
They want to get their news stories on Facebook because a lot of people go there to read the news. But then Facebook makes the money in the advertising.
Right.
Like the Wall Street Journal, the Toronto Star, they're producing the content. It goes on Facebook, but Facebook makes the money.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that the advertising might actually come back to the news media now?
But then who do they advertise to if they're not? So if we're talking about one-to-one encrypted messaging and people are creating these micro communities, how do these guys, like the news guys, get in front of them? Do they get, because you're going to have to be invited in, essentially, right?
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to sponsor private groups, like news groups.
So up-and-coming journalist students, for example.
Something like that.
Yeah,
or Canada News, like private news groups where you have the ability to either join or whatever, and they're sponsored by a newspaper or something like that.
Maybe you pay a minimum fee or something to be part and get access to the journalists at the paper, etc.
That's sort of what I'm thinking. Yeah. And that's actually fascinating because last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about Netflix and what streaming media services were going to do to traditional distribution channels. This is actually a really interesting segue. Why isn't news content that was originally said this is going to be free, and newspapers have been trying to find a way to monetize forever, because if you're going to get the best reporting, you got to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe this is sort of where they start, the evolution of this is going to happen. Maybe we're going to start seeing on social platforms, maybe like Facebook might become more of a Netflix style business where it will sell you access to premium content or access to premium groups. There's obviously going to be some free in there. I think they're never going to get away from that. But that might be an interesting. So it's kind of like
what Medium's doing at the moment with their members and their writers, right?
Right.
$5 a month, and the writer gets so much of that, etc. Or the Patreon service where you can support your favorite podcasters or artists or whatever with Patreon. So it's that's definitely an option. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'm wondering if that's the new business model for them. So Zuck, you're listening? There you go. You're welcome. I should go buy a few more Facebook stocks now that we're talking about that. Interesting though, what is this going to do to the artificial intelligence? So, we're working on some AI products right now within our own toolkit here at Sensei, but I know one of the things that they're working on and have been working on for a number of years is developing their artificial intelligence that will not only predict what people are doing, but better analyze how people use the platform, what they're thinking when they do certain things. And of course, that informs their advertising.
Yeah.
You can't do that when you go dark social.
Right.
So this is, I think, really fascinating. If you're going to go into private groups, they don't have the ability, unless they're going to change their privacy policy, they don't have the ability to capture that information, or at least publicly people can't capture that information.
Facebook can, obviously. But
Facebook can.
We can't as marketers.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, even like the government, like right now, the government can listen in and identify who, on social channels is talking about blowing up a building.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or talking about bullying somebody else, right? So the police can look at that stuff and maybe identify a crime or some problem before it happens. If all this information is now moving into the private domain, meaning encrypted one-to-one or small group conversations, that's gone.
Yeah.
There's a real trade-off here between the need for privacy and everybody's demand for privacy and what law enforcement and government and others have been able to do to identify some of these people before they commit these crimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting play on what's going to happen.
Well, so I wonder then if that can be used a little bit. If Facebook is going to still give some data to marketers, can they? So you've got like your little groups now, and you've got obviously your leaders and your followers and your your influencers, if you like, within these groups. I wonder if that's a way for them to still work with brands and say, okay, you're interested in a journalism group.
Yeah.
So the two people that most spark a journalistic discussion or a controversial point of view and get people all flared up, etc. This is what they're interested in. This is the kind of stuff that they generally post, and they'll post it, at weekends. So if you want to do something, I don't know. It's tough to say because, like say, when it's behind encrypted, you don't really, or you shouldn't know what's going on.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. But I'm also thinking, you remember what I enjoyed the most about Google Plus was the niche communities that they had. And again, referencing back what, I spend most of my time on Facebook right now in a variety of soccer groups. I have two or three, I have a couple of Liverpool groups that I'm part of, an EPL group I'm part of, a Toronto FC soccer group that I'm part of with just, guys. And these are just these niche communities that, we get to sort of chat back and forth, share articles, share opinions, banter back and forth. So I'm wondering, like, this is going back to what I think made Google Plus so popular. It'd be kind of ironic that if anything takes down Facebook,
it'd be Google.
Well, not even Google, but it's going to be Facebook itself. That it's making a decision to shut itself down, as opposed to some other network, just being better at it, but just by doing what Google Plus did better than it did in the first place. I'm sure there's a lot of people at Google that are just sort of like wringing their hands right now. Okay, so we are running out of time, and I realize we don't have our bell here.
You're not ringing the bell?
Where's our bell?
Good grief.
Robert, you had one job. One job. So that's our time is coming up. So last call. This one is a little bit difficult, Danny, to do a last call because there really isn't a specific takeaway here because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. Right? This is just, this is a sign of things to come, right? Zuckerberg is laying out what may happen. So what would you leave as a final takeaway? What should marketers or business owners out there be thinking about in terms of what might happen?
Well, they should try to get rid of dogs in buildings.
We have dogs in our offices. So.
And I'm just wondering if it's an opportunity for brands to actually get ahead of Facebook for a change and start thinking about creating their own micro communities and niche communities on their platforms, in their storefronts, and bringing their fans in before Zuck gets a handle on them, and then create their community of, buyers, influencers, whatever you want to say.
It's funny because I was thinking along the same lines. Selfishly, because we build, that's part of what we do for a living, is build these communities that, build stronger bonds with the clients and customers and prospects and staff and things like that. So, one of my biggest criticisms about marketing in social channels has always been that they own. You're building the content, you're building the community, but they own it and they have the right to monetize it. Right. So that's always been a problem for me, which is why we've built Bondi within our own company. So for me, that's what I'd be looking at. I agree with you. If I was a marketer, I would be looking at how does this trend of micro communities, how does this trend of dark social, which is now becoming a recurring theme in a number of these, clearly this is the way that it's going. So am I going to then be jumping onto what Facebook and others are doing and find a way, get ahead of the curve in terms of how do I leverage these private communities for me? How do I market? Like I remember when Snapchat became a thing, everybody was like, how do I use Snapchat to market my business and make money? Well, maybe this is where we need to start thinking about this dark social thing, I think, is going to become the topic of the next 2 to 3 years for marketers. How do I monetize this? But to your point, how do we maybe build these communities on our own, where we're not reliant on a social network, where they're owning the data, where they're owning the content? Yeah. So that might be where I would leave it. Okay. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you're listening on our podcast or watching, if you are on YouTube, I know it's very difficult to watch Danny live. So I think that's why we have a much bigger audience.
That's why we put the YouTube out 2 days after the podcast. So give them a bit more time.
We don't want to scare people out.
No.
So yeah, definitely make sure that you're subscribing to us.
Yeah, and if you're listening to the podcast, by all means, give us feedback on what you're thinking. And if you like it and you think someone else would like it too, feel free to share with them.
Yeah, by all means. Until next time, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.